I tell people, and folks think that this is harsh, it's like, you're going to have a bad decade.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've been married to my husband for 30 plus years. I mean, the truth is, if you add it all up, even the year, if the odds were you're going to be married to your partner for 50 years and 10 of those years could be bad, you know?
If you're Barack, you're thinking, bloomin' heck, what is she going to say every week on this podcast? And that does seem to be behind this launch, doesn't it? That podcasts now are this incredible way for political figures who used to have to do everything through the mainstream media to put their own narrative in a way where they're not necessarily asked difficult questions. So she can say all of that and make it very clear that her marriage is in a bad spot without being directly asked, yeah, but what's happening with Jennifer Aniston? You know, has your husband cheated on you? Breaking right now, the trouble in the Obamas' marriage has finally been acknowledged by Michelle in a bombshell episode of her bizarre new podcast. Now, you will have heard about the rumors that have been swirling for some time, which is of a secret relationship of some form between the former US president and Jennifer Aniston, the former star of Friends. Michelle Obama added to those rumors by refusing to attend two major events alongside Barack Obama: the funeral of Jimmy Carter, the former Democratic president, and the inauguration of Donald Trump. Obama attended both events solo amid the growing rumors of trouble in the marriage. Now Michelle has given this truly bizarre interview where she talks about the concept of marriage and the fact that if you're married for a long time, you will have years of deep unhappiness. It was clearly a dig at Barack and clearly a very honest portrayal of where the marriage currently stands, which is a bit like the Clintons, right? Or a bit like Keir Starmer and his non-existent wife. A marriage of political convenience. But what's interesting and fascinating so many in America is, what is Michelle's intention, given she has now decided to launch this highly personal podcast? We'll get analysis from David Kurten, leader of the Heritage Party, in just one moment. But first, listen to Michelle's very bizarre, or some people might say honest, comments about her marriage to Barack.
Relationships are long and there are also ebbs and flows, right? So I think sometimes people who date don't realize that, you know, in long-term relationships, you're gonna have deep dips and you're gonna have
a bad year.
You're gonna have a bad. I tell people, and folks think that this is harsh, it's like, you're gonna have a bad decade.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've been married to my husband for 30 plus years. I mean, the truth is, if you add it all up, even the year, if the odds were you're going to be married to your partner for 50 years and 10 of those years could be bad, you know,
you'd sign up for it.
You'd sign up for it.
You'd sign up for it.
You know,
Right.
and that's really how it works out.
Now, David Kurten, you're a very traditional guy and you believe in marriage and the sanctity of marriage. So I guess you can look at this in two ways. You can say, well, good on her for staying with Barack, despite admitting the fact that she's effectively very unhappy in her life for 1/5 of the time. But wouldn't the best thing to be trying to sort the marriage out?
You know, I don't know about their personal circumstances at all, but actually listening to that, I mean, I'm no fan of Michelle Obama, but listening to that actually sounds quite sensible, quite rational, and, you know, it goes along with what some people would say, that, you know, it's not all about love at first sight, and you have, you know, obviously wonderful, strong feelings when you first meet someone, but when you get married, it's a long-term relationship. It's a commitment for life, and you're not always going to have a good day. Maybe you're not always even going to have a good year, but on that, I would credit her for saying, we've had some bad times. We stuck together and we're still together after 30 years. And she's actually had all of these rumors now saying that she's going to divorce Barack Obama, but she's come out and said, no, she's not. She's going to stick with her husband. And I guess, they're going to try to work things out whenever anything goes wrong and when they do have a dip. So, I would credit her for that, to be honest, in what she said there.
But first, don't eat breakfast until you learn about caloric bypass. Your breakfast is setting you up for the entire day to either gain weight or lose it. The term breakfast literally means to break your fast that you started the night before. About 4 hours after you eat dinner, your body switches from the nutrients we get from food to the stored glycogen we have in our body. Once glycogen stores are depleted, typically after 8 to 12 hours of fasting, the body shifts to burning fat for energy. Fatty acids are released from fat stores where they are converted into ketone bodies through a process called ketogenesis. Then, when you eat breakfast in the morning, the body starts the cycle again. This is where the caloric bypass comes into play. Dr. Gundry, a heart surgeon in California, learned that if you break your nightly fast with something called MCTs or medium chain triglycerides, you can actually keep burning fat throughout the day and use it for energy. But there are specific types of food that contain these MCTs. Using this breakfast breakthrough, he was able to lose 70 pounds just through diet, and he did this in his 60s. You can find out all about it and his exact method by going to thehealthyfat.com/outspoken. That's thehealthyfat.com/outspoken, or you can click in the link in the description box below, or use the QR code if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. Now, it is important to remember that everybody's body processes fat differently, and it all depends on your unique metabolic type, which is why in this video he released for my special viewers, he talks all about it. It really is quite fascinating. It may even change the way you think about your health. So go to thehealthyfat.com/outspoken or click on the link in the description box below. But now, back to the show. I mean, it was certainly really honest. Don't get me wrong. If you're Barack, you're thinking, bloomin' heck, what is she going to say every week on this podcast? And that does seem to be behind this launch, doesn't it? That podcasts now are this incredible way for political figures who used to have to do everything through the mainstream media to put their own narrative in a way where they're not necessarily asked difficult questions. So she can say all of that and make it very clear that her marriage is in a bad spot without being directly asked, yeah, but what's happening with Jennifer Aniston? Has your husband cheated on you? And I think that gives her a certain degree of power. I guess, well, it was actually when I was listening to Megyn Kelly's show about this episode that Megyn said, but come on a moment, like, I've been married for, I think it's 20 years or something, and we haven't had one bad year. So it's not necessarily a good message to put out there to people that marriage is almost inevitably unhappy, which did seem to be what she was suggesting.
Yeah, well, it's not inevitably going to be deeply unhappy. I mean, they're people I would question their principles and what they're about. So, they're perhaps the type of people being at the top of the Democrat Party on what's the far left. They're probably not going to be the type of people who are going to be happy anyway. But, that's the other thing as well, Dan, as you said, it was a podcast and she's using her podcast to talk about very, very personal things. So whereas what she said was creditable, you have to question whether it's the right thing to put something like that in the public domain anyway. It's probably better to keep those things personal and private and work out your marriage yourselves. But of course, they are two very, very well-known people, obviously the former president and first lady. So they have a position where hundreds of millions of people are listening to them and what they say. So, she's in a different position there. But obviously not everyone's going to be like that, and I don't wish anyone's marriage to be hard. I wish everyone's marriage to be full of joy and love and harmony, and not like that. But even if it is, you maybe have some days where you don't agree with each other, but if you love each other, you can work through things and hopefully stay together, and that makes everything much better for everybody.
Yeah, and I think another good example of that, David, and you could argue that this man has actually really popularized marriage again, is Donald Trump. Because I'm sure there's quite a lot of his behavior that you maybe think in the past wasn't the best as a traditional guy, but obviously he has very much found faith later in his life, and Melania has stuck by him every single step of the way. During the first term of his presidency, you saw this hunger from the mainstream media to end their marriage. I actually found it quite repulsive. They just were not going to be happy until she walked out on him. And with this term, do you remember they were trying to propagate this narrative that she wants nothing to do with him and she's going to be at Mar-a-Lago the whole time? That has all proven to be completely untrue. And I think there are another probably better example actually of the Obamas, of a couple that has worked through their issues to be stronger than ever. And now what I find so fascinating amongst Gen Z is that there's a lot of people who are moving towards this. Well, I mean, the hashtag is trad wife, isn't it? They much prefer a Melania Trump approach to marriage than, say, a Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at President Trump and Melania. It's beautiful to see. They're together. They love each other, and she goes with him to public engagements most of the time. But if she doesn't, there's no the mainstream media, like you say, are absolutely repulsive in almost cheerleading for them to break up when actually there's nothing there, and they're going to stay together, and they've got beautiful children together. Barron Trump is now 18 years old, very, very tall son that they've got there. So they've got a beautiful family. And I think that's a fantastic example, a role model of a family that people are wanting to follow. Because, as you say, young people today, especially young men, are becoming rapidly more conservative. I think because they've seen the chaos of all of the lifestyles that people have been promoted, where there's endless partners, and I mean, and look at showbiz, non-traditional lives. It doesn't work.
Yeah, because look at showbiz. Look at the chaos. If you look at Kanye West or Justin Bieber or Britney Spears, and by the way, they're all people who I knew in my former life, and I actually have respect for all three of them, but they have been completely destroyed by the excesses of the entertainment industry. And I think a lot of Gen Z look at people like that and think, hang on a moment, there's got to be a better way. Can I just ask you a final question, though, about Starmer and his relationship with his wife, Victoria, which, I mean, she's like missing Lady Victoria Starmer at the moment. Is that not a shame? Because do we not want to see a leader here in the UK have a positive marriage that could provide good role modeling?
I don't think that Starmer's ever going to be a good role model.
Good point. He doesn't even know what a bloody woman is. Yeah, good point.
No.
Good point.
I mean, I wish them the best for their marriage, but honestly, I will always be a critic of Starmer for all the dreadful things he's done over the last few months.
And maybe we've just got to understand why Lady V doesn't want to spend all too much time with him. Look, David Kurten, that has been absolutely fabulous. Such a joy to have you on Outspoken for the first time, leader of the Heritage Party, and I hope you come back very soon. It was great.
Thanks, Dan. Great to join you.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.